"You fool! You could have ended him!" Dr. Grant shouted at Dr. Charles, while everyone else just sat there completely unfazed. They're used to it because it's not her first outburst. Not even the first of the day. "It was syphilis. What else was I supposed to treat him with? It's not like he told me he was allergic to penicillin," Charles fought back. "And who is the idiot that's supposed to find out? Is it the guy with the coma down the hall? Or is it one of the ladies downstairs getting her uterus checked out? Or maybe, I don't know, just taking a shot in the dark here, could it be the responsibility of the doctor that's diagnosing him?" Dr. Grant stood up again. "Get out, Charles. Go work in the emergency room until I tell you otherwise." Charles throws down the file that he's holding and leaves. "Don't the rest of you perhaps have some work to do?" Dr. Grant crosses her legs on the table while everyone else gets up and leaves. Dr. Steve remains, however, who stayed in the same position the entire time, reading a file as if nothing had happened. Steve says, without even looking up, "Emergency room. Really? How else is he gonna learn?" Dr. Grant responds, "And the fact that you two are sleeping together has nothing to do with it?" Steve says. "I will not treat him any differently just because we are," snapped Dr. Grant. This is an interesting case." Steve puts the file on the table and walks towards the door, and then says, "Someone you can probably relate to," and then walks out. When Dr. Grant opens the door, she was a little taken aback because the patient was actually quite stunning. "Hi, Dr. Grant. My name is Robin Spencer," she says. "You're a very difficult doctor to get a hold of. If it wasn't for the fact that I knew." "So your file says here that you have a rash, severe PMS, unusual weight gain, and some signs of depression. Nothing special. Wait, who got you this consultation?" Dr. Grant was curious who she was going to have to fire later. "Oh, it was Charles. I'm so glad he could help me. Look, I know I've been working hard and I'm very stressed lately, but the past months, I feel like it's happening too quickly. Then these rashes came out of nowhere. I went to a dermatologist a few months ago who gave me some cortisone cream for the rashes, but it didn't prevent new ones from coming. The past few weeks, I also can't really concentrate. I'm feeling exhausted and I don't feel the usual cheer I used to go to work with." "Anything else?" Dr. Grant sneers. Miss Spencer hesitated for a moment, but then said, "Well, I also have very unusually low libido, which is not normal for me." While Miss Spencer was talking, Dr. Grant was just half listening and was thinking, who is she to Charles? He doesn't have any sisters, so it's definitely not his sister. Is there something going on between Charles and Miss Spencer? Well, this is a waste of my time. I don't know why you're here speaking with me when who you should really be speaking with is a psychiatrist. Excuse me? Miss Spencer was immediately offended. "I just mean that you obviously have depression and anxiety, so you should be going to a psychiatrist," Dr. Grant said out loud, followed by, "Look, you're getting older. The body changes. Just like when you hit puberty, but instead of things going up, things are going the other way." Miss Spencer was appalled by what she just heard, stood up and turned to the doctor. "And what about my other symptoms, like my rash, my stomach issues, and the fact that I'm gaining so much weight without having had changed my diet?" "What is it that you do?" Dr. Grant asks. Not that it had anything to do with the symptoms. She was just curious. She's probably just a brainless model, she thought. Miss Spencer looked skeptical. "I'm a lawyer at Hewitt and Spencer's. That's a pretty big law firm." Suddenly, Dr. Grant felt this feeling in her stomach. Something she's never felt before. Well, maybe your job is a factor. You're probably under a lot of stress. Drink a lot of coffee and keep a poor diet. That could explain all the other symptoms. Goodbye, Miss Spencer. Dr. Grant leaves and Miss Spencer sits down, completely flabbergasted. A few months go by when the psychiatrist that had been treating Miss Spencer walked into Steve and Tom, all part of Dr. Grant's diagnostic team. Over lunch, they discussed their recent cases and exchanged experiences. The psychiatrist was complaining that one of his patients had trouble with his treatment. She seemed depressed but didn't react to any of the antidepressants. Suddenly, there is a voice over the telecom.
"Dr. Steve and Dr. Tom, to the emergency room, please."
They dropped their lunch, said bye to the psychiatrist, and rushed off to the emergency room. To their surprise, they see Charles stepping out of the ambulance, together with the patient. Dr. Grant shouts, "What were you two doing together, Charles? We dropped that patient months ago." "She passed out at the gym and couldn't get up," Charles says. Miss Spencer was laying in bed and was looking very exhausted. She had gained much more weight than a few months ago already, and her face had severe acne all over it. What's happening to me? Miss Spencer asked Dr. Grant. The antidepressants don't work. I'm feeling more exhausted, got more mood swings, gained more weight, and can barely sleep anymore. Charles puts his hand on her shoulders and consoles her. It's gonna be okay. We'll figure it out. Just rest, okay? Sure, Charles will figure it out, Dr. Grant sarcastically mumbles. The next day, after all the tests were run, Dr. Grant sits down with her diagnostic team to brainstorm what could be the matter. The blood test shows she's in good health. There's no issue with her heart, blood, liver, lungs, kidneys, or brain for that matter, Dr. Grant concludes. What could this be? Bounce ideas off me, guys. Her CT scan and MRI also show up fine. Everything seems normal, Charles says. Steve adds on, all tests for cancer came back negative as well, and it doesn't seem to be anything neurological. May I see her charts? Another member of the diagnostic team, Tom, speaks up. Tom is an endocrinologist with a specialty in functional medicine. Dr. Grant never actually wanted to hire Tom because she doesn't believe in anything other than conventional medicine. Dr. Grant handed her charts to Tom and looked at him condescendingly, waiting for him to say something. She's a lawyer at a big law firm, which means a stressful job, a lot of coffee, not much rest, and her age. It could be an imbalance with her hormones. Maybe we should have our new clinic run a hormone level screen. Dr. Grant rolls her eyes. Thanks for playing, Tom, but let's drop all the new age crap, okay? Can we stick to a normal diagnosis, please? Without saying anything, Tom stands up and walks out the door. You didn't have to do that, Charles says to Dr. Grant. Tom is the best in his field, and you know it. Maybe you should give him a chance sometimes. Dr. Grant changes the subject and suspiciously asks once more. So, why were you with Miss Spencer when she passed out anyway? None of your business, Charles replies, seeing some serious jealousy in Dr. Grant. Come on, guys, we've been at it for hours. Her family has no history of any chronic illnesses or genetic disorders. She is too young for menopause. Her CT, MRI, blood work, and X-ray show that she's fine, but she's exhausted with a rash, severe PMS, digestive issues, insomnia, diarrhea, and depression and anxiety. What could it be? Dr. Grant is frustrated. It could be a rare form of cancer that we just didn't spot yet, utters Steve. It fits the general array of symptoms, and I think we should widen our screen with more special cancer markers. Also, I do think we should at least try the hormone analysis Tom suggested. It can't hurt to just do the test and see what comes out. Well, I'm not sold, Steve, but we don't seem to have any better ideas, says Dr. Grant. So go ahead, run your tests. Come find me when you have the results. Meanwhile, Dr. Grant puts on her usual inspirational jazz music, pours herself into her medical books, and zones out, hoping for her usual epiphany which gets her the diagnosis. Steve performs his cancer marker tests, and Charles hurries to inform Tom on the approval to do the comprehensive functional medical tests on Miss Spencer. Tom says to Charles, "All right, let's perform the 3 basic tests first, including hormone analysis, food intolerance tests, and micronutrient analysis. My suspicion is that she might have an imbalance in her hormones, so we should particularly test her levels of estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, insulin, cortisol, and thyroid." While waiting for the results, Charles walks by Dr. Grant's office saying, "Hey, I just want to say thank you for approving the additional test Tom is performing. I understand that it's against your beliefs, but it might yield a diagnosis after all." Dr. Grant sneers back. "Yeah, well, at least it gives me some alone time to think by myself. You guys can go ahead and waste your time on those tests. Anyway, I wanted to ask you, what's going on between you and Miss Spencer? I've seen the look she's been giving you." At that moment, Tom walks in, not realizing he is interrupting a private moment, saying, "Look at these hormone analyses. Almost all of her hormones are off their normal ranges. It's clear that her adrenal glands are fatigued. Dr. Grant, I think we have ourselves a diagnosis here." To the anger of Dr. Grant, Charles immediately jumps up and says, "All right, let's go see Miss Spencer immediately and share this incredible news with her." As Charles walks into Miss Spencer's room, almost out of breath, he says, "We found what the underlying issue is. It will take a few months for you to fully recover, but you're gonna be just fine." Tom takes over and continues, Ms. Spencer, we found imbalances in several of your hormones. You're low on many essential micronutrients and you are gluten intolerant, so no more donuts for breakfast. We're going to treat you over the coming months with tailored hormone therapy and customized IV drips to provide you with the necessary nutrients quickly. These treatments will help, but you will have to change a few things, and once you do, you will notice very quickly your PMS symptoms will start to disappear. You can't keep working the way you do, though. Take time for yourself on the weekends and go on a holiday every now and then. Trust your team to get the job done. Hire a chef to cook healthy meals for you and switch from coffee to tea or just plain water. You will have to avoid all grains that contain gluten as well. We'll ask you to come in for regular checkups to ensure your hormone levels are returning to their normal ranges. A few months pass by when suddenly Dr. Grant hears a woman call out her name as she's walking from the parking lot into the hospital. Oh no, she thinks. Not that woman again. What is wrong with her this time? Miss Spencer immediately hugs Dr. Grant as she catches up with her, very obviously making Dr. Grant very uncomfortable. I just wanted to say a big thank you to you. The past months, I have felt so much better. My sleep is improving, I'm more focused, I feel more energetic. Also, my rash and PMS symptoms are completely gone, and I don't have digestive issues anymore. Charles just finished the last of the checkups. I just wanted to thank you and your team so much for your help. Dr. Grant furiously finds her way to her office, walking at an angry pace, annoyed that she didn't get this one right. As she stood in the elevator, she could feel her heart beating in her throat. It was beating so fast and she had never felt like this before. She was sweating everywhere and could feel the heat rising up and down her face. Why was she so emotional with this patient? What clouded her judgment?